This video should have been out around about a fortnight ago, so apologies for the delay. I've had to do some work for clients and it's taken me away from editing this video. Also, somebody came up with a story which relates to the location, so I've reshot the beginning of the video as well. The video is about a housing estate at the bottom end of Woolton, off Out Lane really, where the last video was made. And the housing estate includes a few roads. There's Whitney Road, Garway, Halewood Place, Halewood Drive. So it's the surrounding area, which is where Hunts Cross Avenue meets Out Lane. But we're going to start in Quarry Street, which is in Woolton Village, and relate this story back to this housing estate. So don't think I've got lost and wandering around aimlessly trying to find Garway. I'm going to call this video The Expansion of Woolton, because I think the Woolton that I know and the Woolton that probably a lot of people who watch this video, this is the beginning of the building of what is modern day Woolton, I think. So I'm going to make a couple of more videos about this subject over the next few months and see where it all fits in, because I think it'd be interesting to trace its modern history. Okay, so without further ado, sorry about the delay in the uploading of this video. So here we go. This is the expansion of Woolton. This is Quarry Street in Woolton Village, and to the right here, this wall is the Grapes pub, and if we come to the crossroads, there's Woolton Baths. So we're going to take a walk down Quarry Street and looking for a little side street which is lined on one side with very old cottages, terrace cottages, and the side street we're looking for is called Whitney Place. This video, like many videos I make, has been filmed over a series of days, and the last time I did some work for this particular video was a week ago when the kids were off school, and now they're back. St Mary's Hall there, built from local stone. With the kids being back at school, this is a kids playing field on the left hand side. If they were off school it would be deafening at the moment, but thankfully they're all back at school learning things. On the corner here is called the Victoria, and I guess you already read that. Just after the pub we turn left and we are in Whitney Place. So we're just going to take a stroll down to the bottom because it is actually a dead end. On the right hand side here there's some terrace cottages. These days these cottages are a very desirable place to live. But let's have a look back in time and see what Whitney Place used to look like. And this photograph was taken apparently in 1934, and that building behind the cottages, which rises maybe 4 or 5 stories, is the old Bear Brand factory. Bear Brand was a factory which made women's hosiery, and during the war they made parachutes. These days that site is occupied by a Tesco supermarket. A nice looking property at the end of the road here, in its own grounds and its own drive. Let's take the opportunity to get our bearings and have a look at Google Maps. So this photograph here shows the modern day Tesco building on the bottom left corner. And we are at the bottom of Whitney Place, and I've drawn a red circle around where we are actually stood, and we're looking along that piece of green land to the right hand side of the Tesco building towards that house which stands on its own. Right, so now we know where we are, I'm going to retrace my steps back to Quarry Street. And on the right there is the playing field and the back of the Victoria pub. And the cottages on the left hand side here. Now at the top of the road we're going to take a left onto Quarry Street, and there are 3 terrace cottages on Quarry Street as we turn left. So we're going to take a look at this building here, which is marked in a red box, and it runs from Whitney Place, which is where we are now, to the next street on the left, which is called Roddick Street. So this is the last of the original cottages, there's 3 of them, and then we have this run of a modern building, and the story goes that these were all cottages and terrace cottages like we've just seen, and they were burnt down, they were set alight for fire practice, and someone remembers this as being around about 1937 or 1938, so it wasn't the fact that they were bombed during the war, but they were set fire to at the top, and the fire worked down to the lower floor, and it was practice for the local fire brigade. So this is a story which has been told by 2 people, roughly the same date and the same story, and the whole length of this run from Whitney Place to this road on the left hand side, which is Roddick Street, were completely destroyed. Just take a quick look down Roddick Street, and I believe that some of the gaps in this road were caused by bombs during World War II, probably the Luftwaffe trying to bomb the Berbrand factory. So the people that lived in these cottages were moved to Garway, which is part of the estate that we were originally going to look at in this video at the bottom of Woolton. Okay, so let's take a look at the bottom end of Woolton and the estate which this video was supposed to be about. I've marked where we are at the moment in a red circle on the left bottom corner, and we're headed towards the yellow circle. Now this is a walkable distance, and I know because I've just walked it and I'm going to walk back. This is the Cookhouse pub on the corner of Halewood Drive, Halewood Road to our left, and in front of us Mackett's Lane, which leads off towards Hunts Cross. This pub was empty for quite some time, and it reopened I think in 2019, just in time for the lockdowns. Back in my day as a kid and a teenager, this pub was called the English Rose, and here's a photograph of how it used to be. It was in its time a famous landmark. Everybody knew where the English Rose was. So this is a view down Mackett's Lane. As I say, that's heading towards Hunts Cross. But for now, a couple of years, this has been the cookhouse. I've never been in it, to be honest. I believe they do very nice meals here, but so far I've not tried them. And this plaque which is on the wall depicts what was the sign for the English Rose. I've crossed the road now, and we're walking up Halewood Drive towards its junction with Hunts Cross Avenue. So the housing estate, the cottage style houses that make up this housing estate are on the right hand side here, but you'll notice on the left hand side of Halewood Drive the houses are different, and I think the houses on the opposite side were built in the 1950s. So just coming up on our right hand side is Whitney Road, and Whitney Road is one of the longest roads on this housing estate. We're going to walk it from the other end, but just going to take a quick look from this view down Whitney Road there. And a nice view of autumnal leaves at the top of Whitney Road. Gives you a view of the houses as well and the style of them. Right, so just continue to walk up Halewood Drive towards its junction with Hunts Cross Avenue. On Hunts Cross Avenue I made a complete video about, well, not about it, I didn't really say a great deal, but walked the full length from where it joins Woolton Golf Course to Out Lane. Did that in August. If you're interested, it's on my video list somewhere. Compared with the houses that surround this estate, the style of the houses is very different from everything else. There's the 75 bus making its way back from Liverpool city centre. Yeah, but the style of these houses is very different from pretty much everything else that's around. That's what, to me, makes them interesting. So we're on Hunts Cross Avenue now, and walking towards its junction with Out Lane. Now, we moved to Woolton in 1960, and if you've watched a lot of my videos, you're probably aware of that because I've said it a few times. But my dad used to tell a story about all this area being fields. And when I did my video on Out Lane, Out Lane being one of the oldest lanes in the country, everything around there was fields. It's mentioned in the Doomsday Book, and I don't think it changed a great deal until recent times. Now, my dad remembers all this area as being fields. So if you look at the story that I've just opened this video with, people moving to this area from Pitt Place or Quarry Street, that was 1937, 1938 the story goes. So I think these houses here were pretty new then. So this housing estate dates back to, I'm going to take a guess at the mid to, well, at least 1937 they were definitely here, and probably for a little bit of time before that as well. So these were probably being built in the early to mid 1930s, ready for people to move into them. And these would have been built on what was a field. If you've been looking at the opposite side of the road as I've been walking along, you can see that everything on that side of the road is a lot more recent than the side that we're walking on. I'm not quite sure about the English Rose. The English Rose to me looks Art Deco in design. It's got that feel about it. So maybe the English Rose, the cookhouse as it is now, was built around about the same time as this housing estate. Now we're just going to follow the bend of the road round here, and this is where Hunts Cross Avenue meets Out Lane, and as I said earlier, that was a the subject of my last video, and I really hope that the two videos I made outlining this one would have gone on YouTube within a couple of days of each other, but unfortunately it didn't work out that way. So we're going to take a right hand turn into this next road here, which is Whitney Road, and we looked at the other end just a few minutes ago. So this is Whitney Road from the other end, and as you can see, the leaves have been falling and there's a carpet of orange leaves on the floor. It looks very nice at this time of year, this road. So we're just going to cross over. This little road here is an entrance into Garway, which is the next road down, and we're going to walk the length of Whitney Road until we come to the next entrance on the left to Garway and walk around. It's basically a horseshoe shape. During my school days at Gattaca Comp, I had a friend who lived in Garway, and during our latter years at Gattaca Comprehensive, we would occasionally come home to his house at lunchtime, go to the local chippy, sit in his house for maybe half an hour before wandering our way back to school. But he joined he wanted to join the RAF when he left school, but he failed the entrance exam, so he ended up joining the army instead, and he joined for the maximum amount of time. I think that's 20 odd years, I think, and at 15 to sign away 25 years of your life is, I don't know, felt to me a little bit drastic. So that was really the last time I saw him. Went to the station with him when he went off to his first camp. Went to Lime Street with him, and off he went. Never saw him again. Went to drive a tank, which I suppose is a bit different from joining the RAF. I think their vehicles were a little bit faster. Now there's a couple of these setback squares, shall I call them, with a grass front, and they look very nice. It's a feature that you'll find on the next road as well, Garway. Plenty of leaves again. And I'm just going to cross the road in a second and have a look back at Hunts Cross Avenue. And this short road here is called Whitney Place. We looked down it before. I didn't mention it because I was talking about something else, but we looked in the opposite direction when I was walking along Hunts Cross Avenue. So this is Whitney Place, and looks very nice in autumn. Okay, so I'm going to cross the road when it's safe, and going to take the next left turn into Garway. Now soon we're going to come to another recess where the houses are set back in a U-shaped road with a grass verge in front of them. So going back to the story at the beginning of the video, I have no idea why the houses on Quarry Street were set on fire. I mean, obviously it was done purposefully for practice. Whether those cottages were deemed not inhabitable anymore, maybe they'd reached a situation where the residents were going to move out anyway, and it was arranged that they came to this area and then they were set on fire for practice. I don't know, it just seems a strange thing to do. The stories that people tell don't really give enough background to be able to make a factual description. But certainly a different housing estate to move from the top of Woolton there in the old cottages to a brand new estate like this. And when these were built, these were council houses. These were houses owned by Liverpool Council, and to live here you would have paid rent. Now we've just turned left into Garway. This is where my school friend lived, and it's a horseshoe shaped road which joins back onto Whitney Place, which is where I showed you earlier when that car was turning right and we had to cross the road. As I was saying, these were council houses when they were first built in the 1930s, and that doesn't exist anymore. So a lot of these houses will be privately owned. Some people will own them and live here, while others will rent them out to other people. So there's a mixture of owners and renters. On the opposite side of the road, there's a run of houses which are very different from the rest of the properties on this housing estate. If we can just get past this yellow van, might be able to see them. These are like a terraced style house, and as I said, there's nothing else like them on this particular estate, but they are quite typical of council houses of the 1930s, and you can find houses like that in different areas of Liverpool, but they're very different from the houses around them, and certainly from the houses on the left hand side here. This archway was once a shortcut where you could walk through to gain access to Whitney Road and probably to Hunts Cross Avenue, but it's no longer in use. This is the other side of the road, so two recess areas opposite one another. I guess it gives a bit of room for kids to play rather than playing in the street. I think that was the idea of the original design. The 1930s in Liverpool was a time of moving people from what was considered slum housing, old Victorian houses which had very little sanitation, to new purpose-built council accommodation. It was done right through various parts of Liverpool, and I think this was probably one of them. This was the idea behind this whole housing estate, was to move people out of older housing into something more modern. Now on the other side of the road is another junction which is called Halewood Place. It's only a short road, but it takes us down to Halewood Road, which is the continuation of Mackett's Lane. So I've walked to the bottom, and this is the junction with Halewood Road, which is really, in my mind, Mackett's Lane, but it's a short run named Halewood Road. And that house has been there for quite some time as well. That must have been something back in its day. So this is Halewood Place. I've walked to the bottom so that I can walk back up to Garway and show you where we've come from. Saves filming it twice. there and back. Like many places in Woolton, well, let's say all places in Woolton, these days are desirable places to live, and from being a one-time council estate, if you wanted to buy one of these houses now, you could probably say bye-bye to around about £250,000, and it would depend on which style of house. You could pay a little bit more, or maybe a little bit less, but certainly £250,000 would buy you something here. This is the junction with Garway, just having a look back at where we've come from, and we're going to carry on along Garway to its junction with Whitney Road. There is another road which was built in the 1930s here in Woolton, and I think I will do a video about that next. But I think it's worthwhile doing a video on the whole expansion of Woolton through the 1930s to present day. I think it would be interesting because in my lifetime Woolton has never been farmland, it's never been fields, it's always, in my memory, looked like it does now, and I think it would be interesting, at least for me, even if nobody else thinks so, to look at how the houses have changed the landscape before my memory. Anyway, we're back at the junction of Garway and Whitney Road. I'm just going to take a look back at where we started, where we walked from, and just take a little bit of time to say thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch up soon.